This is Meena Puri. This is our second session on Ayurvedic nutrition. Thank you for watching. This is being presented through Michigan Indian Community Services. So we're going to continue on with our conversation on Ayurvedic nutrition in the hopes to impart some valuable information to you and tools to you so you can begin to use this information. It's a vast knowledge. It's a very deep science, but hopefully you can take away something from each session that you can begin to use it in bite-sized pieces and begin to see the improvement in your health and improvement in your life. So thank you for being here. And again, if you are here, please give me a thumbs up that you're here, like the video. And if at the end of the video you like the video, please share. And I'll be sure to read any questions and comments. It also helps me to know what to present next. If there are any questions that I can always present at the next session. So feel free to give me your comments and questions in the comment section here. All right, and we will get started. So just to wrap up where we were in the last session, I talked about in the last session to the need for a bigger context. The need for a bigger context so our smaller worries, which are what to eat and our weight loss and how to improve my digestion, they get answered in a much more effective way once we have a bigger context. So the bigger context for this is that we want to view food as medicine. Ayurvedic medicine views food as medicine. Food is a prescription that you walk away with once you come see me. It's not a pill, not at first at least. And food is a way to sustain a healthy life, and why we want a healthy life so we can do what we came here to do. So food is means to an end. It's not the end. And there's a lot of gap between, we know a lot of detail about the food, but still to implement it in our day-to-day life is a problem. So there's a gap between the knowing and the doing. And this is what I hope to fill that gap with the knowledge that you can use. And Ayurveda actually helps us fill that gap. That gap is subconscious, our food choices, our habits, and, and how we have created our body through our habits and our food choices. And one thing that I had mentioned that you walk away with is to pay attention to your mood. So it's really mindful diet. How are you feeling and how is that affecting your food choices? And we have in our modern times a lot of traps when it comes to our food and nutrition. The traps are the diet, and why that is a trap, because the promise is to lose weight, which for most of the plans, the weight loss is temporary. So I'm not saying that all diets are bad. Sometimes you do need a diet to kind of jumpstart, to get into a healthy way of eating, to get into a healthy groove. For a long term though, we really want to look at, different kind of diet, a balanced diet that we're not continuously yo-yoing between the diets, and we're not continuously struggling with the weight, rather is paying attention to how you're feeling, the health, your overall health, your vitality, and your happiness, your enjoyment of life, and if you are a contributing important member of society. And another trap was the miracle food. There is no such thing. There are many, many foods that are have wonderful nutrients, but there's no one food, there's no one diet, no miracle diet, no miracle food that exists. And another myth that we've been kind of bought into is that we want to save time. So we all have, time is always the same, 24 hours everyone has. There's not a, overage of time or less time. So it is a mental trap. It's a mental shift thinking that we don't have time. We actually do have time. And if we don't have time, to take time to pay attention to, the cooking and the eating and taking time to eat, then we really have to look at our priorities. Because when we do look at our priorities, we will find that we do have time to take care of ourselves. So that's where we have been. And again, why there is so much fuss about nutrition, and why we are continuously looking to different type of approaches to see what to eat. One of the reasons is, so remember, in the olden days, we ate what nature provided. So in the sense, we ate what was locally grown. So in that sense, nature was a teacher. It told us what you eat. This is what's available in this season. So we didn't have to adjust our diet to the season because nature did that for us. And also food was not as abundant as it is now. There were lesser choices. So in many ways, in the fewer choices, it's telling you this is what's available to eat. This is what is good to eat. And also what happened back then, the food-related illnesses and food allergies were never heard of. So the fuss is for our modern times, because although nature still is a teacher, but we're not looking, because nature has become confusing, and actually our perception has become confused because we can get any food, anytime, from anywhere in the world, and things are open 24/7, at least they were before the pandemic. So that's where the problem is. And also our food supply has become toxic. There's a use of, to increase shelf life, to globalize the food, there's a use of pesticides, chemicals, genetically engineered food. So that has entered the food industry. So that has lent itself to now 48 million foodborne illnesses every year in USA. So it's worth repeating, 48 million foodborne illnesses every year in USA alone. So that can be a scary fact, but I'm always an optimist. I always think, wow, if we can address food in a way that is that people can begin to use the information, we can educate people, then these are the 48 million illnesses that we can get rid of. So that is my hope, and that is what we can do. So that's the potential of the health that we can create with just paying attention to food and nutrition, the right information, and the right way to use it. And I think the time is right now, even riper now than it was a few years ago, for us to use that information where our health and immunity has become, is at the forefront of our being. The fear of catching the infection or fear of death, even worse, has alarmed us to our health, has brought the importance of health to the forefront, and sometimes that's what happens. So looking at the Ayurvedic nutrition, let's understand some few basic principles of Ayurvedic nutrition so we can apply these principles moving forward. Food is fuel. Remember I talked last session that we want to change the mentality of food from food is medicine, from entertainment to nourishment, from the end of all ends rather than means to an end. So food is fuel. The quality of the fuel will depend, it'll affect the quality of our life, and it'll affect the quality of our health. So one of the things that we want to look at with the Ayurvedic nutrition is the energetics of it. When you look at energy, it's a subtle life force of our being, and it's also the subtle life force of food. That's the life force, the prana, that we are getting. So on the gross level, we think food is fuel, But on a very subtle, more profound levels, food is prana. Food is providing the life force, the vital life force that we need to live a purposeful lives. So one of the examples that I can give you to demonstrate that is fresh versus old food. So if you go ahead and pick up, fresh apple from the tree, when you take a bite into that apple, you can taste the sun and the breeze. Now leave the apple out for a few days, a couple of weeks, and eat that. The apple has gotten old. Although it still tastes good, apple still does, but the life force, the vitality has been reduced to much less. So there's much less prana in the old food as opposed to freshly prepared food. And also, when we look at prana, one of the things, the vegetarian diet, and we'll go into that in one of the future sessions, but here's one of the reasons why vegetarian diet has the highest prana, because there's no harm done to the environment. So when we think about prana, prana is not something that we possess. Prana is something that's flowing to us from the universe. We are connected to the universal life force, the universal prana. If we are getting prana by harming the pranic or the life force of the environment, it is going to affect our prana as well. So that's one of the reasons why vegetarian diet is going to give you a much higher prana, the subtle life force that we need. And prana is not the same as calories. And when we are eating junk food, if we if we continue to eat the junk food, it doesn't satisfy. That's one of the reasons why we keep reaching for more, because we are hoping to get prana, but we're not getting it because processed or junk food has no prana in it. The freshness of the food or the real nature of the food is no longer there. So even though we have consumed enough calories, because the prana or the life force is missing in the food, we continue to eat. That's why when we begin to eat just real food in our diet, they begin to lose weight. They begin to feel better because they stop overeating. Because the food is so rich in life force and prana, we don't need to eat it excessively. It satisfies us at much deeper levels than just our taste buds. So, and how do we create from food? How do we get that vital life force? Is through our digestion. Through our digestion, we recreate the body. And the one of the principles in Ayurvedic nutrition is balance. That's one of the things that's missing when we are looking at different diets. Balance is, it's a tricky topic. It seems like that here's a balanced diet. Go ahead and eat that every day. It's a dynamic field. Balance is a dynamic field because it's a much bigger field to navigate than one would think. So in a balanced diet, it's needed that we become mindful. We become mindful of what our body needs. We become mindful of what the tendency for our imbalances may be. We become mindful of what season it is, what is available, how we are feeling. So it is a much bigger field to navigate. And when we can't navigate it, we just hold on to a diet where we are told, hey, eat this, then you don't have to worry or think about it. But that diet, that particular diet is only good for short term. So when we hang on to it, whether it's a ketone diet or, there are just so many diets that I can name, but you get my point. When we hold on to that diet, it's not meant forever. For the longer term, we do have to be able to understand how to navigate this middle place by being mindful. So, and it's a skill that we can acquire. And once we eat in a balanced way, that will, our cravings are no longer there. Cravings are a result of our lack of balance in the diet. More we indulge the cravings, bigger the cravings get. because they're not satisfying the deeper need for a balanced diet. So these are the principles, and let's move on to the next. So digestion, our ability to digest is really our ability to transform the food that we take into energy. So Ayurvedic nutrition, it's not limited to just, digestion of food, to just the physical, because Ayurveda really is a study of, is really a deep dive into the non-physical, to the subconscious, to the pure consciousness. That's actually where life happens. It shows up on the physical level, but it doesn't start at the physical level. That's why it's really important to go into that which we cannot touch or see, but we can definitely experience and feel. And so it's not just limited to the food. Our digestion is also affected by our life's experiences. If we're not able to metabolize our life's experiences, it will affect our digestion, not just our ability to digest the food, but it'll affect our focus, our attention, and our mental health. And so engine of our life, digestion is one of the 4 pillars of health in Ayurveda. It is the engine that drives the whole, that gives power to the whole vehicle. And digestion is needed. This is where our immunity is at. It is needed for proper brain function. It's needed for mental clarity and focus. And it's so because of the bigger picture of digestion in Ayurveda. So the digestive fire is called Agni in Ayurveda. And our digestion begins at the mouth when we begin to salivate in anticipation for food. That's why when we are preparing food, the smell, the preparation, the touch, the taste, it is telling our digestive power to wake up, food is coming, so you can really receive it. And when we are bypassing that, that itself is going to hinder our ability to digest the food properly. And I think I mentioned last session that, when we're not digesting, when we are eating, when we're angry, eating during a heated argument, or or a heavy loaded topic at dinner table is just not a good idea. One of the stories I'll share with you, I went to meet with a Chinese doctor, a colleague of mine. We were having lunch, and during the lunch, there was absolutely no conversation. We simply sat and ate, and we continued on with our conversation after the lunch. So he really was following that principle, and he adhered to it. And I can, tell you how vital, how important that is to pay attention to to what we're eating, how we're eating at mealtime. And that's part of the mindful eating that we will get into at another one of the sessions. And so digestion and our mental health. So why I brought that up particularly, because many times, as we know, mental health issues are on the rise. Mental health issues have always been there. It's just that we have become more aware of them. And actually they are increasing because of our poor diet and lifestyle choices. So, our digestive health, we know now that there's a direct link to anxiety, chronic depression. And I have many, many clients that I see with anxiety and depression, and that affects their digestion. The weak digestion, in fact, in turn, it loops back into the mental health, so there's a loop with mental health, brain health, and gut health. They are tied together. Mm-hmm. So that's why just taking a pill for any of the mental disorders, it's a mild, short-term solution, not a real solution. And emotions actually make us very sensitive to food. We develop food sensitivities because we are constantly worried about what we are putting into our mouth. We're not mindful. There's a difference between mindful and between being anxious about it. So when we are consciously worried what we are putting into our mouth, and we are constantly, being overcharged with what we are feeling, and how we think about food, it compromises our digestion. And so in that regard, what we eat is important, but what we digest is far more important. And so this is a whole new topic that I'm not going to discuss here, perhaps at one of the later sessions. I just want to touch upon it and make you aware. I've had clients who've kept eating food journals obsessively, yet they still continue to have the stomach issues. And when I ask them to not Google anything and put the journal away and just tune into how they are feeling after each time they eat, is there a level of enjoyment? Are they integrating the food? Is there like a satisfaction or a psychological fulfillment when they're eating? Are they taking time to eat? That begins to improve their health far more than them being really diligent about or worried about every morsel they put in their mouth. And moreover, our ability to handle stress is directly linked to our ability to digest. So here are some of the signs and symptoms of poor digestion. Feeling bloated after meals, lethargy, weight gain is an obvious one, mental fogginess, depression, anxiety. And more serious are acid reflux, GERD, food allergies, constipation. And the most serious of the digestive issue is inflammation. Yes, inflammation is a digestion problem. And if we don't address the digestion, we cannot address the inflammation. So we're back to the, the culprit is the processed foods, major cause of inflammation, major cause of digestive issues. Because their food is chemicalized and is chemicalized to promote addictions. That's why you can't just stop at one. And, made with 50% real ingredients. And these are some of the slogans or the labels worth paying attention to. And, we have a grab and go lifestyle, a snack bar that you can pick up. So I'm not suggesting that you can't do these things. I'm suggesting, mindful use of these things. So as opposed to living that way all the time. So there's a difference. So every now and then, yes, you can grab a bar because you're running out of time, but to continuously be. So when we're looking at most Americans and their diet, it might not be yours and mine, but I'm trying to address the, people, larger public here who can shift from this grab and go mentality to actually sitting down, paying attention to what they're eating and paying attention to how they're eating. So, and one of the things that's being normalized is food addictions and overeating. We are a culture of overconsumption, and hopefully this pandemic pause has brought some awareness to that, and I'm hoping that that has happened, but that's what needs to happen. And in the case of when there's so much unprocessed or undigested emotional health, and the emotional and mental health is in upheaval, the perfect menu will create the more toxins, because that in turn has really depleted the body's ability to digest, metabolize, absorb, assimilate, break down, and eliminate that which is not digested. So there's a whole cycle that takes place once we take food into our mouth. So if any one of those processes fails, nothing gets transformed. Food does not get transformed into energy. It actually gets transformed into illness. And whatever we don't turn into energy, or whatever is the food that's undigested, it sits in our body, it sits in our gut. Because the body is trying to reach to a state of homeostasis, it will inflame. The inflammation will happen in order to break down that undigested food. So that's how inflammation, one of the ways how inflammation sets in, and it starts from the gut. And so if we, with all the worry about what to eat, tell me what to eat, give me the recipe for this condition, tell me what to eat, I'd rather you start with, how can I improve my digestion? If we can spend some of our attention and worry and channel it into how can I improve my digestion, you are going to come ahead on your digestive health, on your overall health. So again, it's important to point that out, that food is medicine. So it's our ultimate health insurance. And it requires a little bit of a mind shift, because we've been living in this, world of abundance, world of processed fast foods, and a world of grab and go lifestyle. We're busy. This is the culture that we have normalized. We have to pay attention to that and create a mind shift. And first of all, unnormalize that culture. And again, go back to the basics. What food is meant to do is to give you clean fuel for you to have a healthy body. You have a healthy body, so you can do what you came here to do. So food is means to an end. It's not the end. So we eat to live in a vital and fulfilling way. We don't live to eat. That's the mind shift. So the kitchen, every food is thought about, it's a pharmacy. Right now, I've been going into my backyard, just picking out dandelions. I don't spray my yard with any chemicals. So I just pick out fresh dandelions, leaves, cut them up, and I put them on. I had omelet this morning, I put it in that. So because I know in spring season, when there's a seasonal transition from winter to summer, in the season, the body is going through changes to adjust to that season. And one of the changes it goes through, that it's trying to let go of all the heavy food that we have eaten over the winter months, and eating dandelion, which is very bitter and alkalining. It will help the flow of those heavy foods and help us eliminate that heaviness. So bitter taste is cooling, and it also creates lightness in the body. So remember I said that one of the principles of Ayurvedic nutrition is light food creates lightness to the body. So the dandelion greens is a light food that makes the body feel lighter in the springtime, because we don't need the excess weight. We don't need the heaviness that we need in the wintertime. And so you want to think about, foods that are on an ongoing basis are healing and balancing the body. And it's one of the ways, when we pay attention to one thing, we pay attention to everything else. It's one of the ways that we can show self-respect and self-care and self-love. To care for oneself is to eat well, is to eat mindfully. So I'm not going to go into this in detail. This is a whole new topic, but just to, give you a little, so you can wet your taste buds here a little bit, is the building blocks of nature is 5 elements. In one of the small ways, this is how we can explain Ayurveda. It's just a very small way. This is not whole of Ayurveda. So the 5 elements are fire. Just one second. Is fire, earth, water, air, ether. That's the creation. And so we're looking at the energy, the quality, and the functionality of these elements. They're found in nature. They're also found in food. For example, popcorn, light, it has a lot of air element. Pizza, on the other hand, has earth element. Hot sauce has fire element. So, and then these elements are found in our bodies as well. Some people are Vata, which means there's a predominance of air and ether element. Pitta, there's a predominance of fire element. And Kapha, predominance of earth and water element. So if somebody is Kapha, they have a predominance of earth element. And if they go out of balance, they're going to go out of balance in a Kapha kind of way, which means they may get heavier. So for them to eat pizza would be counterindicative, which we will not be recommended, because like creates like. Kapha food will create more kapha. Now, pizza may be good for somebody who is a vata, who's very small build, but it's not good for somebody who is large build, because it will create a further imbalance. And so the next big thing that I want to go over is, so we've been talking about digestion, and here are some of the ways that you can begin to improve your digestion today. So one of the ways is starting the day with stewed apple. Stewed apple, or actually start the day with like a hot lemon water. And after that, before you have breakfast, is stewed apple, if your digestion is really hindered, is a really good way. It scrapes the digestive tract and it boosts your metabolism. So stewed apple, you simply cut up apple, keep the peel on or off, in a 1/4 cup of water, 3-4 cloves, in a pot, cover it up, medium heat, 5 to 10 minutes, and that's it. It's light, it's easy, it's warm, it's easy on your digestion. And sipping hot water throughout the day. Sipping hot water, the tongue signals that digestion, that food is coming, but this is not food, it's just water. So the digestion becomes high, it becomes alert, it begins to work, but it turns inward and it begins to digest or detoxify, okay? And another way is to add half to 1 teaspoon over your meal, and take the first bite with the ghee, with the clarified butter or ghee. That helps stoke the digestive fire. And by the way, these recommendations are very general. And avoiding cold liquids, large volumes of liquid, because they tend to liquefy the stomach enzymes that are needed to digest the food. And eating to 75% full. That goes without saying. We've all have experienced when we overeat. How does it feel? It doesn't feel good. So that's telling you that, body isn't happy. So when we eat actually lighter and leave a little room for the process of digestion to take place, our gut, our digestion is much happier. And avoiding snacking between meals, because it gives time for the food to be digested. And if you need energy, then it can get the energy from the reserved stores, from the fat storage, instead of getting energy, even if you chomp on a carrot. So it's just working to digest that carrot, getting the energy from the carrot, rather than getting energy from the storage in the body that's already there. So And of course, if you're starving, if you tend to feel, if you have a digestion, everybody has a different digestion that, oh my God, I'm starving. So I don't mean that you neglect that. Do eat, have something, have a handful of nuts or a piece of fruit, or maybe eat a little bit more during mealtime. And here's, how you can become your own doctor is eat some food, notice how it makes you feel physically, mentally, emotionally, your level of energy, your focus. And that'll tell you that food didn't sit well with me. I'm not going to do that again. So actually our body has an innate intelligence. And if we listen to it, we can get a lot of education from just like that. And take the largest meal in the middle of the day instead of in the evening. That's again counter to our culture where we go all day and then we make up for it in the evening time. Not recommended because the evening time our digestion slows down, and then at that time when we're giving it the heaviest meal, it just doesn't work. So that's another shift that we have to create, is a mental shift to have the largest meal at lunchtime. And I think that we can figure that out, even if we are going away from our home, to work. I mean, we've gone to the moon. I think we can figure out how to have the largest meal during the daytime. And the meal should be warm, cooked, and easy to digest. So take time to eat, sit down to eat. And ginger is a, magic digestive tool. Please use ginger in your cooking, use spices, and ginger has so many other uses, which we may cover at one of the other sessions. And so just to sum it up, I hope you are getting a lot out of this information. I certainly hope so. And please don't forget to put any questions or comments in the comment section. I will look at them. And so 3 takeaways. So understand the importance of digestion to our physical and mental health. Our digestion has a power to digest metal. In layman's terms, what I'm trying to say is that our digestion has the power to be so strong that if we eat bad food on occasion, it knows how to eliminate it or how to process it, okay? So we want to think of food as a medicine instead of pills being the medicine. That doesn't work for a long term. And mindful eating. So mindful eating is again, it's a larger space. It's a dynamic space. It's not that you're mindful eating today. It's paying attention to all the subtleties, to all the nuances, to all the environment around you, to yourself. So that's something we continue to develop all the time. And so with that, I'm going to end this session. So our next session, which is in 2 weeks, I'm going to go more into mindful eating, what that means, and beliefs and how they turn into our eating habits, our food habits, and go over the emotional eating signs and symptoms and what a balanced meal looks like, all taste. I may not be able to go all of that in one session. There's just so much here, and I'm trying to see how I can. It's like taking this vast knowledge and giving it to you in a handful. It's a challenging task, but I'll do my best. And how to do the food combination. So I hope to give you the subconscious, the mental, emotional thing that our health that drives a food choice, and also give you some takeaway tools on a session by session basis so you can begin to use this information. So with that, I will take your leave. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Take care.